What's going on, fellow engineers? This video, I'm going to do a update of my router. I use DD-WRT for the router, and I wanted to show you how to go about doing that if you've never done an update to your router. Let's get into it. All right, so welcome to the channel. If this is your first time checking out any of the videos on the channel, please consider subscribing. I come out with new videos every week on Tuesdays and Saturdays, so feel free to search past videos and see what kind of content that I have. And if you're interested in it, please subscribe. So as I mentioned in the opener, I do have DD-WRT on the router that I use, which is a TP-Link Archer C7. I have had it in use for several years now, and so very what to say, very good router. I do have some issues with it occasionally, where the Wi-Fi on it will occasionally go down unexpectedly, like the authentication portion of the Wi-Fi will stop responding. So all the devices will not be able to communicate via Wi-Fi. And so I did a video some time ago about the automation that I built that would automatically check the list of devices and reboot the router if need be. So if you want to see that, I'll have a link to that as well, so you can watch that video. But this video is just to show you how to do a update on DD-WRT. This is probably about the third update for the router that I've done, and so it's fairly straightforward. But you know, it can go wonky if you don't do things correctly. So I'm already on the DD-WRT website. And what you want to do is to go to the router database, which is over here on the right. And then you'll need to type the name of the router that you have. Ideally, you can just type in the model number and that should be sufficient. Now, I have the Archer C7, which you see here, but you need to pay attention to the revision information. Mine is revision 2X. If you're not sure what revision that you have, look on the router. There should be a label or sticker or something that has the version number or revision number on it. You want to make sure you get the revision number that corresponds. You want to download the revision number that corresponds to the hardware that you have. Otherwise, you risk breaking the router that you have. So once you identify that, you'll go ahead and click it. And if you're doing from the stock firmware to the DD-WRT, you will do the DD-WRT factory image. And so that will take your firmware that's existing from the manufacturer, so in this case TP-Link, and overwrite it completely and install a DD-WRT on it, brand new install. If you're doing an upgrade, you'll want to do the DD-WRT web upgrade, which is this file here. And if you're trying to revert back to the factory firmware, you'll want to do the web revert to stock. So I already have this TP-Link file downloaded. So the next thing is to go to my router. All right, on the router administration page, if you go, well, you click the tab here and you do the firmware update, and it will prompt you to select the file. All right, once you have that file selected, you have the option of resetting the router settings back to their defaults or leave them as is. I do not reset my factory settings to my defaults. If you want to, you can do a backup of your configuration. And to be honest, I honestly do recommend that you do that beforehand. So just go to the backup tab and then hit backup. And it will prompt you to download or save this file. So save it. It should go to your downloads folder. All right, so then go back to the firmware update tab, select the firmware file, which I have done, and then hit upgrade. It will take some time for this to work. For me, it's probably taken about maybe 3 to 4 minutes for it to do a firmware update in the past. One thing you want to also note is that you can look at the version number in the upper right of your window to make sure that it has changed, as well as the date of that firmware release has also changed once you do the update. So we'll let this run. It may not take all of the 200 and something seconds that is saying. In my experience, it hasn't, but it will count down slowly because of the fact of how that update process works. Once the upgrade has completed, and it did not take the whole 200 and something seconds, that's just a countdown, the router will automatically reboot by itself. You get the typical reboot screen. If you've never done a reboot from the router UI, this is the screen that you will get, and after maybe about a minute or so, the router user interface should come up. All right, the upgrade has completed. If you're not certain whether it has completed, you can always go to the status page of the router, and you can see here the version. So this is the firmware version, the DD-WRT version 3 with, I guess that's a build number after it. And then it has a date of November 3rd of 2020. And if you look here, November 3rd of 2020. So long as those two dates match, you are good to go. If you want to choose a different version, I didn't mention this earlier, but you can choose an older version of the firmware and use that as well, but always use the latest version to make sure I have any updates such as new features or security updates. So that wraps things up for this video. If you have any questions about DD-WRT, or you want me to do a video discussing a little bit more of the features of DD-WRT, feel free to drop a comment down below. As always, please give this video a thumbs up, and also be sure to subscribe to the channel. New videos every week, Tuesdays and Saturdays. Until next time, peace out.